Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Sit Downs with Charlie Brown. I'm your host, DJ Charlie Brown, or whatever you choose to call me. And joining me once again is my lovely brother, Mr. Joe Groebner. How you doing, bro?
I'm doing good.
Yeah, as I crack open this. I'm drinking a Diet Coke because it's 1 o'clock. It's somewhat still early. But yeah, so with you being back on for, God, I actually want to look this up. I think this is like, I want to say like I know we've done this for over a year now, but I want to say we've done we started in 2020, so this is 6 years running. So
yeah, I don't know when it started. So
I remember because it was 2020 when I was in college. So, but hey, I appreciate you still willing to come on and do this. So
yeah,
all right. So yeah, with you on, you know what we're talking about. We're talking hockey, and obviously right now the NHL Olympic break started on Thursday, I believe it was, if I'm correct. So they've just been the opening ceremonies for the games were yesterday, but I figured with the Olympics we'd get into it a little bit. So obviously they announced a lot of the team lineups. Were there any surprises that when you kind of were like scrolling through them that you noticed with the games?
I mean, not too many. I mean, for USA, leaving off Jason Robertson.
Yeah, no, because I think that's the one that I wanted to ask you the most about is Team USA. So for people who aren't really familiar with, essentially, Jason Robertson, one of the better wingers, like I'd say definitely top 10 in the U.S., as he was left off in place of guys like JT Miller, Vinny Trocheck, and Brock Nelson. Now, Nelson, I understand. I think in Colorado he's been really good this year. I think Trocheck and Miller, those are the guys who are like, why are they here?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, it is what it is. They're coming, and like I'd say Robertson's probably the biggest snub for the games. Did you really see any other snubs for Team USA? Because I know many people were talking Caulfield, possibly Hudson, but I don't really know with those guys.
No, I'm not really surprised by any of them. I think with Lane Hudson, it's just because they had Quinn Hughes, who's already very short. You have Zach Werenski, that's already really short. I mean, I get some people saying you should just take the best defensemen possible, but you can't, if your goal is to win, obviously having a D-core of all short defensemen is probably not a good recipe for success. And out of the two, Lane Hudson is the least experienced because he's just in his second year in the NHL and is still very young. He will probably go to the Olympics someday, but I mean, at the end of the day, with U.S. and Canada, for a fact, they're very deep lineups. There's gonna be people that get cut.
Yeah, because I think realistically, because I was thinking about it too. I think realistically, in terms of who's the odds-on favorite, I'd say it's between Canada and U.S. who are gonna probably be the two competing for the final. U.S., I think there is the chance that they probably screw it up and get sent home early. But at the same time, most of the team that we're taking this year is the same one that was a goal away from beating Canada in the Four Nations last year. It's hard to say that they're not going to try to at least repeat success.
Yeah.
But yeah, the other question I did have was were there any sleeper teams? Because I know looking at the rosters, obviously, the four big ones are Canada, USA, Sweden, and Finland. But also you look at some of the other ones. Switzerland's got a decent lineup. Germany, Chechnya. Were there any ones that you really stood out?
Yeah, Germany, for sure.
Yeah.
I think Germany is a sleeper pick for bronze.
Yeah, that's because I think, that's the thing I've noticed is Germany's been getting really good over the years. Not to the level of Finland, Sweden, US, the main 4 or 5, but I'd say to the level where they can put together a roster that competes every year.
I would say their only problem, if they really want to get to that medal, their one obstacle is the US, because I'm not entirely sure how the bracket plays out, but
yeah,
I thought I heard that they'll have to play US in the group stage and then most likely play them in the quarterfinals. Yeah. So if you're Germany, if you're trying to get to that bronze medal, you're going to have to knock off the US at some point.
Yeah.
So that's their only thing. But I think they're a sleeper team.
Yeah.
And Czechia too.
Yeah, because Chechnya, they have a lot of great players as well. Because I know that they got Dostal. I know Pasternak was carrying the flag at the opening ceremony, so it's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, I figured we'll get into breaking down the chaos that has been the regular season, which has definitely been good up to this point. So first up, the Ducks. In a year full of surprises, the Ducks are surprisingly not terrible, which is shocking. Here's the thing. People are critical of Coach Q, but he is probably one of the best hires they've made just based off his tactics alone. Yes, he is still not good. Yes, there's the whole situation with Kyle Beach and whatnot. But I think, he's definitely gotten the most of what Anaheim has right now, and that's a lot of great talent. Carlson, Cutter Gauthier, Troy Terry. Heck, even Chris Kreider's been playing better since leaving New York, which is probably not shocking. But, now they got Jackson Lacombe. They got Jacob Trouba, who's been playing better alongside Chris Kreider as well. Dostal actually has help, which is surprising. I think recently they've had a bit of issues with sustainability, but I think very least, I think Anaheim's taking it right now because it's just kind of a year where they're seeing something other than stalling or just regression overall. So,
yeah, they're playing. I think it's basically house money. Whatever happens to them, it's a positive direction.
Yeah.
Although I just want to touch on Jackson Lacombe a bit. This is going back to the Olympics a bit.
Oh,
too.
yeah.
So he was added in for Seth Jones, and people were again upset that he was put in over Lane Hudson and all that. This could be a breakout moment for Jackson Lacombe.
Yeah,
I think people might start to really, he might start getting the attention he needs. And
here's the thing, he's not a bad player because I know
not.
Last year he had, I think he played. Last year was kind of the year where he really kicked it up a notch, and why they gave him an 8x9. I think this is going to probably be the time where it's okay, yeah, this guy's something.
Yeah, so I think he's going to be someone to watch the Olympics. I could see him. This could be a breakout moment for him, and it could be huge steps for his career.
Definitely. Definitely. So, the Boston Bruins. It is with great misfortune to let Boston know that Cam Neely and Don Sweeney are still here. Unfortunately for the Bruins, that means they aren't tanking this year. They are simply just mediocre and unable to ascend any higher from what they are right now. Even if the entire wild card picture out east is a mosh pit, it's just kind of a thing with the Bruins for me. I'll give them credit. It's not just Pasta, McAvoy, and Swayman. Geeky's having a good year. Fraser Minton and Murat Unsidanov look like good depth pieces. Tanner Jeannot, Victor Arvidsson, and Lindholm are okay, but, that's about it. I think here's the thing. The problem with the Bruins right now is the same issue that I've seen from them for a couple years. They have the potential to make a wild card. They do not have the potential to get out of the first round. That's kind of where I am with the Bruins, and, it's just kind of where I think that's going to probably be the case this time around again.
Yeah, I would say that's probably an accurate thing of where the Bruins are at right now. I think they're good enough to make the playoffs, probably not good enough to make it out of the first round.
Yeah, because I think the big thing they want to do is try and rebuild, because I think you're not going to win with, realistically, you can probably hang on to, Pasta and a few other guys, but it's this isn't a core that's going to help you win anytime soon. But what do I know? And then the Buffalo Sabres. Wait a minute. You guys aren't terrible? I'm sorry, it's... excuse me for a moment. The Buffalo Sabres are not last place in the East right now. Now, the first half of the year was a giant mess for them. There's no denying that. But thankfully, they finally kicked out Kevin Adams as GM and replaced him with Jarmo Kekalainen. From what I'm understanding, apparently he's been the catalyst for this team's issues so far, because since then they have found new life and started just rattling off random win streaks, because why not? Tage Thompson and Alex Tuck look really good. Shane Doan looks like a superstar in the making with how he's been playing this year. Josh Norris was struck down by injury, and Owen Powers has been disappointing. I'd say it's just been really... I think at the point is, the Sabres don't know what to do with themselves right now. It's this is the first time in a long, long time they aren't dead last, and they're just how are we going to... What do we do now? It's it's scary.
Yeah. No, I think it's very cool that the Sabres are actually kind of competing for a playoff spot right now. I'm kind of rooting for them to make it. I think that would do wonders for them.
If they win a playoff series before the Toronto Maple Leafs, it would be hilarious.
I don't know if I'm there yet. The Atlantic Division is very tough.
Yeah, it's very tough.
Which probably makes it even more impressive that they're doing this.
Yeah, no, exactly. But if they did, it would be hilarious. And it is why I'm kind of have a soft spot rooting for them this year. So, yeah. Moving over to the Calgary Flames. Sophomore slump seems to be the thing that defines them this season. You know, last year's resurgence has really worn off, and it's proving they still got a long way to go to building this team. You know, they went 2-12 in October, and it just really has been kind of going through the motions this year. The good news is that, like, most of their prospects are still young, like Zari, Coronado, obviously Dustin Wolf. You know, I think the big thing... Yeah, Zane Parekh. Like, they got a lot of young guys who are still in the system and going to be making their showtime within the coming years. I think, you know, mostly what they're looking to do at the deadline is just sell off Kadri, Huberdeau, Anderson, whatever they can to just kind of reinforce what they have for the future. Like, they even did it with Rasmus Anderson already, as he got a plane ticket to Sin City. So it sucks, but I mean, like, it's just kind of where they've landed at this point.
And I think it's probably the best direction to go for them.
Yeah. Yeah, so Carolina, I beg of you, can this finally be the year you guys get the monkey off your back? If there's a time to do it, it's now, with the East standing to open back up from Florida's chokehold. Like, the Bandits of Brindamore continue to be a Category 5 storm that plows through the season like nothing. You know, Jarvis, Aho, and more all firing on all cylinders. You know, they've got the newest additions in Nikolai Ehlers, Jackson Blake having a great campaign, you know, and even more surprising, Shane Gostisbehere is playing even better than he has in his previous years, you know. However, they still have the weakness, and you guessed it, it's goaltending, you know. Freddie Anderson is washed, and Pyotr Kochetkov is out for the year with injury. You know, they have help right now with Brandon Bussi, but I don't know how long he can keep it up for much longer. Because, you know, there's a reason why hasn't really had the big sample size up until this point. You know, if they can just figure that out, it's smooth sailing for them to the playoffs. Just please, guys, don't let this core go to waste again. You don't get every chance.
Yeah, I feel like they're just missing a player.
And
they could use it.
Yeah, and I feel like, I think they're probably going to be buying at the deadline, like they have to.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So now we turn to the windy city of the Chicago Blackhawks. The good news is the rebuild is showing signs of turning the corner, kinda. You know, the Blackhawks still are struggling to find this thing called consistency, and have really sunken in the past 2 months. But that's not what people are really focused on. It's probably the fact that Bedard has some help around him in somewhat kind of form. Frank Nazar, Artem Leshinov, Sam Rinzel, Oliver Moore, Wyatt Kaiser, and more are starting to find their way into the lineup on a regular basis. You know, Burakovsky, Bertuzzi, and Donato are playing okay while mentoring the kids as well, so that's an added bonus. You know, it also helps that the Seth Jones trade gave them Spencer Knight, which has looked like a really good move, as Knight might be the guy who they rely on going forward, even if he's had his kind of issues so far. I'd say, you know, this is probably just going to be another year where they're kind of having to tank, but I think they're getting close. You know, it's just taking more and more time, as many people are seeing.
Yeah, I mean, most of the guys like Frank Nazar, Artem Leshinov, Sam Rinzel, Oliver Moore, like all of them, they're all under 22 years old. Same with Connor Bedard. So, like, they're still very young.
Yeah.
It'll come, probably, with this core, because it's really good.
Yeah, it's
still going to take a couple
It's a good
years.
core. It's just got to develop. So,
yeah.
Now we get to Goliath himself, the Colorado Avalanche. Seems like they finally recovered from their hangover after years. You know, this season alone has been nothing short of incredible, because they've been torching every house, killing the livestock, burning the crops, and salting the earth so nothing can ever grow again. I'm not even joking. At one point, they were 16-1-5 within the first 2 months of play. We're halfway through the year, and they still have less than 15 losses on the season. Their offense is about as deadly as you can imagine, you know. McKinnon, Lehkonen, Natchez, Nelson, Nichushkin, and Landeskog. Which, speaking of, Martin Natchez got a nice extension to keep him there for the long-term future. The defense is even more with Cale Makar looking to try and get an extension this offseason, the immortal Devon Tays, and Brent Burns in his final ounce of old glory, hopefully. Colorado knows, they're not going to have every chance with this core, especially with McKinnon. So they're trying to make sure that they get it done this year. But you might want to be careful in the Central. Objects are closer than they appear. We'll get to that later. But yeah.
Yeah, no, they're just really good right now.
Yeah. Do you think, honest question, do you think they're a cup team with what they've got right now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting. So they've played some of the fewest games in the NHL going into the Olympic break. 3 less than the Wild. So I imagine they're going to have a very condensed schedule coming back into March. So we'll see how that plays out and if that helps slow them down a bit.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
Yeah. Now we move over to Columbus. Even in a season where the Metro is thrown out of whack entirely, the Jackets are pushed to being the standard of being a basement dweller. Just feels like they're Charlie Brown. They can't get results no matter what approach. It's a bummer because their core is good. Werenski, Marchenko, Fantilli, Vorkanov, Denton Matichuk. It's just they have so much inconsistency. It also doesn't help that they're having goalie issues with Jet Graves really not being a full-time starter, and it's clear they got to move on from Elvis. I think it's time. And it was a chaotic mess for a majority of the season, which led to them trading off Marchment, trading off Igor Shinnikov. I apologize if I butcher that name, and it just signifies they're pulling the cord. Also, that doesn't help they fired Dean Evison in this short time frame. So they're pulling Rick Bowness out of retirement in order to get anything positive so far. They have been getting better, but I think, barring a miracle run, it's looking like another year in purgatory, which sucks considering it means they're likely not going to get anything that can fix what's happening to them. Maybe someday you'll be free, boys. Maybe even blessed with Gavin McKenna if he gets his stuff figured out.
Yeah, I don't know. Don't really know what's Columbus. They're kind of just in limbo.
Yeah, it's the hard team. Those are the hard teams to talk about. The teams that are in limbo, because it's there's not much you can really say other than hope you can get out. So yeah. All right, now the Dallas Stars. I figured that firing Peter DeBoer wouldn't have much effect overall. If anything, they're a little better and less dramatic on the ice. In a cutthroat Western Conference, the Stars once again stake claim with their play this year. Mikko Rantanen, Wyatt Johnston, Miro Heiskanen, Roope Hintz, more are all dominating in Texas. It also helps that Jason Robertson is having a season that'll secure him a big boy deal in the offseason. Whether that's in Dallas is to be determined. The only real blemish they've had this year that I remember is Tyler Seguin struggling to get back with a knee injury, but it really doesn't matter because of who they got between the pipes. Jake Ottinger is once again gobbling pucks up like it's Texas barbecue. However, even for their success, Dallas knows the mission objective. Far too long they've fallen short, and they got to break through. Even if they have one of the harder paths to Lord Stanley, like a lot of other teams, anything else will be a failure. Personally, though, if it were me, I think you should just trade Jason Robertson to a team up to Alberta for memes at this point, and trade Ottinger to Minnesota for, Marcus Foligno and a few other guys. That'd be very helpful, too.
Yeah, I feel like it's just cup or bust for Dallas at this point because they have a really good roster, but with the salary cap, they're gonna have to make decisions soon.
Yeah, because I think Robertson. I think this is Robertson's last year in Dallas. So
probably, but that's why you got to do it now.
Yeah. So now the Detroit Red Wings. Seriously, how the hell is this team even in first place at the moment? Did Stevie finally gave and resorted to black magic in order to save his job and reputation? Disclaimer, a big reason for being in the Atlantic Division, for them being in first, is the Atlantic is because Florida is still trying to get very much healthy and everyone else is jumping into a volcano over and over. At the very least, the Red Wings are better than a better team than a lot of others out east right now. The core of Sider, Raymond, DeBrincat, and Larkin actually have been getting help. Patrick Kane's been really good. Andrew Kopp, JT Compher, and a lot of the other veterans. They have some great youngsters in Emmett Finney, Simon Edvidson, and Alex Sandin Pelika. Overall, I think goaltending is not ideal, but the duo of Talbot and John Gibson is stable for now. While I don't believe they're going to stay atop by the end of the year, I think they can have a shot to make the playoffs with a few tweaks and not collapsing again. However, I would do everything impossible to stay ahead of the pack, though. If they fail again, Steve Yzerman knows he's probably getting his butt kicked and probably getting fired.
Yeah, it's a good step in the right direction for Detroit. Obviously, there's still some holes that need to be filled, but I mean, again, it's going in the right direction.
I think, here's the thing. It's a big thing with the East this year. Like, if you've been paying attention, it got thrown out of whack, and I think realistically, like, it's allowing teams like Detroit to finally move up and break through. Like, they've been getting locked out for the past few years. So, yeah. All right, the Oilers. I'm disappointed. I wanted chaos July 1st, 2026. The saga with Connor McDavid had the most anticlimactic ending as he inked a new deal. It's 2 years and less than expected, but essentially he put Edmonton on a countdown timer. We're either winning soon or I'm gone. As far as their season, it's still one that has me concerned that nothing's changed and is likely teetering. Stop me if you heard it before. The Oilers are once again over-reliant on McDavid, Draisaitl, Nugent Hopkins, Hyman, and Bouchard to carry this team because they don't have no depth and suspect goaltending. It's not even funny anymore. It's aggravating to see such gross incompetence from this team. Like, I don't know. To be fair, the depth hasn't been all bad compared to previous years. Savoy, Henrique, and Podzlinski are decent options on the bottom pair, but it doesn't help when players like Trent Frederick and others have suffered massive decline, and in case of Frederick, he's an albatross. But I mean, the only good thing I agree with is they finally pulled the cord on the Stuart Skinner experience. It was for the best as he was a liability and they needed to salvage this fast. However, it's the fact they chose to replace him with Tristan Jarry, a guy waived from the Pittsburgh Penguins for being an even bigger sieve than him. Like, oh my God, even if they finally got it together, it concerns me that this team is going to screw the pooch again. All I will say is, clock is ticking, Edmonton. You either are winning now, or you're going back to the Chiarelli era. Your choice.
Yeah, it's a countdown clock for 3 years. I think you can't fault McDavid. So I think the contract that he signed was basically telling him, hey, I want to win here in Edmonton. I'm trying. You have 2 years to figure this out, or else I'm leaving. Mm-hmm. I think they have 3 years to figure it out and get a cup. If not, I think he's gone.
Oh, yeah, no, because here's the thing. Like, I think McDavid right now is, like, 32, I want to say.
No, he's not that old.
Well, he's, like, late 20s, early 30s. Like, he's not going to have his peak years much longer. Like, I think realistically, like, he knows that if he wants a shot at the cup, it's either they're doing this within that time window, or he's going to go, God, I don't know where he would even want to go. Like, I think would he want to go to, does he want to go to the Gretzky path, like in LA or in New York, or like, I don't even want to even begin to think about that right now.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So now we move over to the reigning champs, the Florida Panthers. Cup hangovers are really kicking in for the Panthers this year, if we're being honest. In their defense, it really was expected after they kind of dealt with a lot of injuries. Losing Barkov for the year was a massive blow to them. And the fact that we're halfway through the year and Matthew Tkachuk finally made his season debut. Like, while they have talent, those two make this machine run at full strength. And it just shows as the Panthers have been unable to stay higher than a wild card spot this year. Unfortunately, they are a team that just hasn't been able to get out of this and have been sliding further and further down. Marchand, Reinhart, Lundell, Verhaeghe, Jones, Ekblad, and Colt are trying, but nothing is getting them going. Lusterine, Rodriguez, and Greer are okay for short terms, but they aren't able to be if you're relying on them constantly to fix this issues, it's not going to work. especially when you get to Bobrovsky. You know, I think sadly it's getting time. You know, it's good that he's been apparently having so many goalie fights this year because Lord knows those are fun to see. But I think, you know, he's probably on borrowed time as well. You know, even if they can probably get elevated into a wild card spot, I feel like it's either they got to treat it like this. They got to make a decision. Can they go for it this year, or should they just pull the plug? To me, I think I'm leaning more towards pulling the plug for now.
Nah, I think they're going to go for it. I mean, the coach said before the season that at this point they're going to be scratching and clawing their way into the playoff spot with all the injuries, and it's looking like that's the case.
Yeah.
But if they make the playoffs, I think they're going to go for it. No doubt about it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I'll say this. I don't think three-peats in the cards this year, but who knows? Yeah. The LA Kings. Are we really shocked by the performance of the Kings this season? This is the same team that thought Ken Holland was a good GM in the year 2025. Like, in a Pacific division full of fresh legs, the Kings are just squarely in the mid. The worst place for a hockey team. Would be nice if they can do this thing called score on the power play or get wins at home. The only real players actually performing up to great standards are Fiala, Kopitar, Byfield, and Kempe. That's it. You know, all the moves that Ken Holland made have backfired horrendously and now crippled them. Corey Perry was brought in to help them finally beat Edmonton, and the only thing he is leading them is penalty minutes on the Kings. Doughty has dealt with injuries most of the year, which has resulted in Cody Ceci and Brian Dumoulin being dead weight on the defense. Also, would be nice if Darcy Kemper could do this thing called staying healthy, you know. So in a faint attempt to save his reputation to get this team to the playoffs, they chose to go gambling on Artemi Panarin, which I don't even want to begin to think how he's going to fix this issues, you know. Add to it with the fact they gave him a 2-year extension, which is essentially giving them even more cap hell to deal with in the offseason. Like, the sad truth is the Kings are on a never-ending cycle that's either going to lead to pain, either way you put it. Even if they turn the corner, you know what is going to happen. I'll give you the choice. Miss the playoffs or suffer another loss to Edmonton. We all know what Ken Holland answer is, baby. We're going for it.
yeah, no, they got to make it out of the first round this year, and I think getting Artemi Panarin was a helpful addition for this year.
Yeah.
And especially, you basically gave up nothing for him.
I mean, yeah, that is true. Like, I don't even know if the pick's probably going to be lower, and, like, it's a 20-year-old. Like, you never know with those kind of players. So, yeah. All right. Now we get to the big one, and oh boy, we got a lot to talk about with this one. The Minnesota beloved Wild. So, the one time I decide to take the initiative and upload a video early in my sporadic schedule, Bill Guerin decided to take it personal on me. Just as the video was done buffering, he got the Kaprizov deal done. 8 years, $17 million a season, holy hell. You can call it an overpay all you like, but I view it like this. Cap's increasing, deals are changing, he is worth it, and we really did not have much of a choice. Hey, Joe?
Yeah.
Exactly. But, you know, as far as the actual year, it's been one I've seen in 3 phases. The first year was stumbling out the first few months, just with streaky style and play all around. Kirill was healthy and playing up to his contract. Boldy's continuing to be one of the more unsung winners who I think realistically more people are starting to talk about with him, alongside Joel Eriksson. Hell, Marcus Johansson has been playing significantly better and a solid contributor in his last breath, which I don't want to know. Also helps when you got the 2 youngsters, Danilov Yurov and the Wall of St. Paul, Jesper Wallstedt. Like, that man is just Jesper Wallstedt. I could go on full-on tirades about, but man, let's just say that he has been worth the wait, and he is the great Wall of St. Paul, lead with shutouts and greatness abound, baby. But, you know, here's the thing. I feel like that's not the story with the Wild this year. It's the fact that Bill Guerin took a risk that none of us really imagined. You know, here's the thing. the fact that it happened out of nowhere, like even a few months ago, the fact that Quinn Hughes is still on this team is just insane to me because it did cost us Rossi, Ogren, and Bouillon, which Bouillon I was bummed about losing. And it does come with the fact that there's the whole talks of him wanting to get an extension. I just think realistically, we've seen like it's been night and day with this team. Like they went from being a team that was hovering to the same spot last year to holy crap, they might be looking to go deep in the postseason this year, which I'm keeping my expectations low, but I want your thoughts on how this year's gone overall, Joe.
It's gone really good. I'm excited about it.
Yeah.
I think the goal for me is just as long as you can just make it past the first round.
Yeah, I feel like that's what a lot of people that's what I'm where I'm at. If we can get out of the first round this year, then I consider it a win. Because here's the thing, like realistically, I think looking at it now, getting Quinn Hughes was probably the best decision, not just from a value point, but because here's the thing. Realistically, you look at Colorado, Dallas, and Minnesota right now. Like nobody, like you essentially got to win the division now because you want to play that team that gets the wild card spot. Because Lord knows, like you can't, like if we have to go up against Colorado or Dallas round one, like I don't like our odds there. So yeah. But yeah, I think realistically, like I also wanted to ask you another thing. Obviously, I think the Wild are trying to look to buy at the deadline. I kind of want to know, in a perfect world, what do you see them trying to add? Because I know center's a big issue, but I don't really know. No, what are we going to add? Like,
the only option I would consider would maybe be Trocheck for the right price. If not, I mean, we're already depleted with assets. Don't waste all of them right now.
Yeah, because I know many people were speculating if we should trade Jesper Wallstedt and go get someone like Robert Thomas from St. Louis. I don't think St. Louis is pulling that trigger, even if Wallstedt's in the deal.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right, now we're moving over to Montreal. Well, the changing of the guard in the Atlantic has helped the Habs significantly. You know, they're taking full advantage and cementing themselves at the top so far. You know, it helps when, they have their new wave of prospects to help the likes of Suzuki and Caulfield and Slafkovsky. We talked a little bit about Lane Hudson. He's a stud defenseman. Ivan Demidov's been worth the price of admission. They have a lot of other great prospects really kind of gelling on this team right now. Like, it's just been a really great season overall for the Habs, and I think it really shows they're kind of still gunning for another shot at the playoffs. How they get, I think, is still kind of up in the air because I think you look at goaltending, like Montembolt's kind of been fizzling out and Jacob Dobbs has been taking over in net. So I think there's some issues there, but I think overall they're definitely one of the more intriguing teams looking at going into the second half this year.
Yeah, no, just kind of similar to the Red Wings of they're doing the right thing and kind of be patient about it.
Yeah. Now the Nashville Predators. Originally, I had my starting notes of how this team was deep in a tank and rolling down Broad Street at record speeds, but sadly that isn't the case. The entire season has been what I expected them, a mediocre entity living in denial. Here's the thing. Barry Trotz is clearly not good as a GM. This is a very slow and old team that clearly cannot compete with the new age of the NHL. Forsberg, Stamkos, and O'Reilly are decent for what they are, but they're not guys who are going to be franchise faces any longer. Matthew Wood and Luke Evangelista are solid, but they're still kind of just young and still developing. It's more with Marchessault, Brady Shea, Eric Holla, and heck, even Roman Josi starting to really decline. Their big acquisition in Nicholas Hague is showing why penalty minutes don't mean much of anything if you can't get points. Yusei Saros is the only reason this team is not winless right now, and even it's to the point where he's getting destroyed most nights. The Trotz era of GM has been disaster, and it's thankful to God that he chose to step down. He wasn't fired, he's simply choosing retirement. It's honestly for the best for them. Like, this team needs to rebuild. I've been saying it since, 2 years ago. Just rebuild, please. It's terrible.
Yeah, no, I think Trotz stepping down is probably better for them, and we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think realistically they probably are gonna shop guys like Ryan O'Reilly and see what they can get for anything at this point. So yeah.
Yeah.
The New Jersey Devils. Okay. How is it that a team that can't go 5 minutes without how is it that this team cannot go 5 minutes without suffering crippling injuries? The first 2 months of the season started out fine, but then the wheels started to slowly fall off. Jack Hughes is being relied on to be Superman of this organization, but he suffered a hand injury that knocked him out for a bit. All because of a broken glass at team dinner, dude. Dude, same can be said for Simon Nemec and Brett Pesce, who have missed a good chunk of the year as well. Heischer, Meyer, Luke Hughes, Mercer, and co. are good players, but there's really nothing around them. Palat is all but invisible most nights. Dougie Hamilton is becoming an anchor on the back end. Even their big piece in Evgeny Dadonov has been a bust due to performance and injury. That's not even getting into goaltending, with Markstrom having a terrible year and being outperformed by Jake Allen in 2025. It's an unsustainable mess with the Devils, From questions about durability to players, lack of depth, Sheldon Keefe clearly being a poor fit for the team. This is a slow-burning tire fire, Unless, 80 different miracles go their way, this is likely another wash this year. They seem to agree, as they already sold off Andre Palat to start. I expect more moves to try and retool the roster within the coming weeks, as we get closer to the deadline. And no, Devils, throwing everything you can to complete the Hughes bloodline isn't going to magically fix things. Stop.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know where you start with New Jersey with fixing it.
Yeah, because, it's just, you wonder, can Jack Hughes, if Jack Hughes can stay healthy, if, all these different things can go right. It just doesn't seem like this formula is sustainable. I'm not saying you need to just strip it down and rebuild. I think, you can make adjustments. I think you just really need to figure out what the philosophy of a better philosophy for this roster, I'd say, is the big thing with them.
Yeah.
So, yeah. The New York Islanders. I think this season is the most paramount evidence that Lou Lamoriello was holding the Islanders back for years. Even if they're a team that's really not the best on the power play, suffers late period collapses on a given basis, and Patrick Waugh can be kind of iffy at head coach sometimes, New York is pushing hard for the Metro, which is shocking, even though half of the division is kind of imploding on itself. It helps when you have a first overall pick that has lived up to the expectations they had for him. Matthew Schaefer is a superstar in the making and arguably the odds-on favorite to win the Calder this year with his level of play. Add to it with their newest Russian export in Maxim Shabanov, it finally gives them help for the likes of Horvat, Lee, and Barzal. It gets even better when they get Andre Palat, who's been having a great veteran influence with this group. Goaltending has even been more good with Ilya Sorokin having a new tag team partner and David Riddick to help share some of the load. However, I feel like that even for the success, I'm kind of tempered on them, mostly because I think a few guys are playing above their metrics, and, they have shown an instance where they can collapse down the stretch in the past. I think it may not be the year for them, but I think it's a house money year. They're going to have a lot more prospects reaching the shore next year, and I think it might just be a better call to stand pat at the deadline. If they want to add it for something, go for it, but I think it's just wait, because I think they got a good formula right now.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they should do at the deadline. So
yeah. So now the Rangers. This one's going to be fun to talk about. Is there really any surprise about the Rangers that they're playing like this? They're a crummy team that's delivering more drama than on-ice results. It's amplified with the fact they can't win at MSG. While his play is fine, JT Miller is once again showing why Vancouver got rid of him. If you know, you know. Besides him, the likes of Fox, Zibanejad, Gavrikov, and more are simply just okay. Not what they're really known for. The only hope they really have right now is young flashes from a kid named Noah Laba. Goaltending hasn't even been able to bail them out. It's Igor's being pedestrian due to no help, and Jonathan Quick is cooked. That's all I have to say. Why? Answer me this, Joe. Why does Chris Drury still have a job with this organization?
That's a great question.
Exactly. Exactly. Why does he? What does he do? Does he make good coffee? I don't know. Like, here's the thing. It's already started because Artemi Panarin got shipped out, and yet for some reason, for why I can only describe as just the good old boys club nature, James Dolan is not getting rid of Chris Drury. Like, the only thing they have right now is the fact that they're represented at the Olympics because Guerin and Sully like grit on their roster, which is why JT Miller and Vinny Trocheck are there. So yeah, like here's the thing. I think buckle up, Rangers. You're selling at the deadline, and it's gonna be ugly. Yeah. So the Senators, what the heck is happening, Ottawa? I expected maybe a small step backwards, but this is alarming. It kind of makes more sense when you understand the issues. The issues isn't in talent. The likes of Stützle, Batherson, and Kachuk are still producing. You know, even with Shane Pinto having to be sidelined because he was an idiot and gambled on games, like, they should be in the playoffs. The issue why they aren't, it's goaltending, man. Linus Ullmark, like, he's more than beyond. Like, I don't even know if it's a case where he's cooked. Like, he's just simply not been the same self this year. Also, the stuff that went off with him in the offseason, or the stuff that's been going on with him lately, like, I don't really know. I just think he's become a massive liability to the team, which is alarming because he was the reason for their success last year. But I think, realistically, like, unless he can somehow turn into the Hamburglar, like, they're going to probably be having to sell at the deadline because I don't know what you do with Ottawa at this point.
I mean, they need a goalie. That's
but
all they would need.
Like, here's the thing. Like, I imagine they can't get one at the deadline. They're gonna have to try in the offseason. And like, who are you getting? Like, are you trying to go get Igor? Like, does he even want to come to Ottawa?
Yeah,
that's the big question. So, buckle up, Senators. You're in for it. The Flyers. I know they can be very streaky, but it seems like Danny Briere's vision for finally starting the new age of the Flyers is looking to come into vision in some way or form. Matvei Mishkov is for some reason not getting the ice time to showcase his skills, which is, I don't know with that. But the main cog for them this year has been the Trevor Zegras rebounding to his old form. I think it was just really he needed to get out of Anaheim, and he's looking really good and likely going to get extended by them. Add to it with Tippett, Konechny, Dvorak, Cates, Brink. Like, they're a very well-rounded team. I just think, what they really need is goaltending because I think Harrison's making most plays that even high schoolers can prevent. Like, it's just, a big thing with them is they're trying to still develop sustainability and really kind of develop the core overall. Like, it's better than they were under any era of Chuck Fletcher, And here's the thing. You can at least say that you're somewhat doing better than Pittsburgh overall. Like, if someone chirps back, you can be like their radio announcer and tell them to blow you. You remember that clip, Joe?
Yeah.
While you're down there, do you mind? Yeah, you can get the idea. So, Yeah. Pittsburgh. Okay. Can you guys make up your dang mind on what you want to do? Like, here's the thing. You spent 1 month red hot only to screw up the next two, yet somehow sit comfortably in the wild card spot. Even for that, the truth is that there's still a team declining due to several team factors. An aging core with no cap space, players that don't have the ability to keep up in the modern era of play, and new to this year, meltdowns in the third period or blown leads, which are costing them. The main reason why they sit in the playoff spot right now is because they have their divisions tanking, injured to hell, inconsistent in play, or your name is the New York Rangers. Like, here's the thing. Malkin's officially in the twilight of his career. Brian Rust is already beyond decline, and it's clear they got to move on from Erik Karlsson. When Anthony Mantha has an argument to be one of your better skaters, it's an issue. The only positive is that they got rid of Tristan Jarry. Like, even then, the result was getting Stuart Skinner, who's currently injured, and they have to rely on the sieve known as Arthur Silvos to watch the leads get blown every game. Like, it's just Jesus. Like, I want your thoughts on this, Joe, because I can't. I don't know what Pittsburgh.
I mean, they have Crosby. As long as they have Crosby, they're going to compete.
Yes, that's the only thing they have, and they somehow keep doing this. It's like, Crosby should be getting statues of him and streets named in that city for all he's done for them. Like, yeah. I don't. Like, here's the thing. That's the thing that you want to know what I'm concerned of. It's going to end up if they end up missing the playoffs this year. What are the odds that Bettman rigs the lottery just so that Pens get Gavin McKenna? Honest to God.
Pretty low, isn't it?
I mean, here's the thing. Are you familiar with? Have you seen what happened in the NBA? It's not uncommon to see draft lotteries get randomly selected, and I use the air quotes to saying that they can clearly be rigged. So yeah. All right, the San Jose Sharks. Congratulations, Sharks! You have been elevated from trash to legit promise. In fact, you're even in the wild card hunt. It was bound to happen eventually. You just got to be patient. It's honestly impressive for the season that they've had. It's been almost night and day. God bless Macklin Celebrini, man. He is single-handedly carrying that team on his shoulders and is clearly worth the first overall pick they spent on him. And is just, he is a treat to watch most nights. They also they also got some more youth. With Will Smith, Will Eklund, and Colin Graff starting to become the stars of the future and the new faces of the core. They've had some great veteran influence in Wenberg, Klingberg, Kurashev, Toffoli, and more that are contributing, or better yet, get them future prospects. Goaltending personally is going through some growing pains with Askarov, but I think he is the guy going forward. He just needs playing time and experience. Regardless, I think it's just a year where, the Sharks are playing with house money. If they make it, great, but at the same time, you also got to remember, they still got Misa, Dickerson, and more inbound in the coming years, The Sharks are finally free, and I kind of want your thoughts, Joe, because I think the Sharks are the team that are kind of climbing up in the West.
Yeah, they are. They're making tremendous strides. I'm quite shocked that they're this high.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, realistically, I think it's just shocked they got here this quickly, because I think many people saw this as kind of a year where maybe they can be like hovering a little below 500. Not this good this soon is what I think a lot of people are surprised. So, yeah. Now the St. Louis Blues. Yeah, sorry, Blues. I'm not trying to say this to be mean as a rival. I think it's time, and there's more than evidence that it's time. Montgomery, Magic, and Gloria can do wonders, but they can't revive the stark truth that a rebuild is long, long overdue for this team. This year's been really a massive disappointment where not even a miracle run down the stretch could save them at this point. Buchnevich, Thomas, Kyrou, and others are trying, but they can't when the D-core is really bad. It's full of old guys who really just can't keep up. It also doesn't help when Alex Torpeco injured himself trying to cook. So, yeah. Also, Jordan Binnington is washed to the point where I think even Canada fears him starting in Milan. It's that dire for that.
So, I think the only reason Jordan Binnington got on Team Canada was because he played really good at the Four Nations.
Yeah.
I think that is legitimately the only reason, and they're rewarding him for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. I think it's getting to the point where I think they may want to just consider pulling the plug. It's not. I'm not saying strip everything. You can probably hold on to Thomas, Buchnevich, Neighbors, and maybe Brady Shen. But I think you want to sell high on guys like Holloway, Broberg, and Sundqvist, just so that they can get some stuff in return. Sadly, the days of chasing have kind of caught up, and now collecting their due. I imagine it won't be a terribly long rebuild, but I think it's one of the things they got to do.
Yeah, they just got to retool.
Yeah, and
that's all.
Yeah. The Seattle Kraken. Even if they're in the hunt, I really don't know how to feel about the Kraken. If you remember, they started this year incredibly poor, and they've only surged in the past month or so. It doesn't help when they still struggle with inconsistency in scoring or special teams play in general. While it is true that Jordan Eberle and Chandler Stevenson have been having really good seasons, it's really the stagnation with their youth. Eli Tolvanen, Matty Beniers, Shane Wright, and more are just very underwhelming for what is many people saying the core contributors of this group. Even McCann's starting to decline, and many people speculate if he's going to be a trade asset for the right price. The only real positive they've had is that goaltending has improved with the Cord starting and Grubauer being the backup, which has been better. Not not what it was last year, essentially. The question I have is how much more is this sustainable, and is it even ready? Like, because my fear is this: like, Ron Francis is going to use their recent success as an excuse to buy at the deadline, and the team ends up sinking. Like, I don't know what Seattle does at this point.
Yeah, I think they're still getting off the mat from being an expansion franchise.
Yeah.
The magic was Vegas. It's a one-hit wonder. Not every franchise turns out to be like Vegas. This is what it's like for a lot of expansion franchises.
I mean, like, the Wild did this, like, for the first few years in their life cycle, so we were familiar with it. I just think, like, they just need time. Like, if they're here, here's the thing. Like, they came into the league in, like, 22, I want to say. If we're here, like, in, say, 2020, 2030, and it's still the same thing, it's like, okay, now we got to have some talks. So, yeah.
Yeah.
The Tampa Bay Lightning. I have a serious question. How are you guys still even breathing at this point? Like, dead serious. Like, that's the big thing I have when evaluating the Lightning this year. You know, one of the older teams in hockey that started off really inconsistent and missing the likes of Point, Kucherov, and Hedman is still back into leading the Atlantic for the time being. Turns out that they just needed to be patient as they heated up in the past month and are really back in the race, which is shocking. Like, the likes of Gensel, Hagel, Radish, Bjorkstrand, Mosser, and more have been finding ways to contribute on a given night. You know, especially with the fact that Vasilevsky, I hate to say it, as he's probably a guy who's going to be in the Hall of Fame, his age is showing and his form's getting taken from him, you know. It's kind of getting there. While they are surging for the moment, like, I think they're going to probably be looking to add at the deadline. Because I think the big question I have is this: do they have enough? Because the past few years they've seen them get to the playoffs, but kind of just come to the playoff futility. So I think that's the big thing you wonder with this group.
Yeah, they're gonna buy at the deadline. I think they're gonna try and compete for a cup. They have the core to do it. They just got to get over the hump, and I think they're gonna try.
Yeah, because I think realistically, majority of the guys, I think most of the likes of Kucherov, like Point, Hedman, even Vasilevsky, you wonder, like, when they're going to probably be retiring in the near future.
Yeah.
So, yeah. The Toronto Maple Leafs. You know, I was expecting regression, but not at the level which is being displayed. Even as an American and someone who despises the Leafs, even I kind of have a little sympathy for this. Feels like abuse in the fact they haven't done anything to make changes aside from firing their power play coach. Like, Austin Matthews has been having a season nowhere close to what he's usually known for, and it looks like life is being sucked from him every day. You know, Nylander, Nyes, and Tavares are okay, but the rest of the lineup's a total mess. Sometimes you'll get a splash play from the depth, but nothing. It really doesn't help when they're down like 3 goals most games. Like, also would be nice if Stolarz and Woll weren't dealing with injuries and could make saves once in a while. Like, I think, you know, if anything, it's clear that they gotta sell at the deadline. Like, I'm not saying they gotta sell everything, but I think it's clear, like, the core four was a massive failure, and it seems like everyone involved needs to go their separate ways. Like, and I think that might be the talk of where you start thinking, do you want to move Nylander and Matthews? Because I think realistically, like, they're not getting any younger, and I think you really can't be winning with this iteration of the Leafs.
Well, I don't think they're going to get rid of those two. They're going to keep them, but they need to retool around them.
Yeah, because I think realistically, like, the only guy who I've really heard done anything this year for them is Nick Robertson, which is, I don't even want to begin. But all in due time, this is a very fitting punishment for the Dallas Cowboys of NHL. So, yeah. So now we get to the Utah Mammoths. Apologies. You know, it's been rough sledding as it's their first official season under their new names, but I mean, it's not terrible. Like, it's mostly been hovering around 500 and struggling to really find consistency on a given basis. Also, a lot of it has to do with the lack of scoring depth on the roster. You know, it's mostly been Dylan Genther, Clayton Keller, Nick Schmaltz, JJ Peterka, and Logan Cooley. Speaking of which, they wisened up and gave Cooley an 8x10. Good. You did not want to screw that one up. So, yeah. I'd say, like, the bigger thing that I'm looking at with them is, like, Carl Vejmelka's been kind of pedestrian this year, and I think that's kind of where their issues have been. Like, a lot of their issues they have are fixable. That's the good thing. But I think realistically, it's more a year of where they're just kind of waiting for their prospects to get ready, and they can get some momentum going into next year. So
Yeah, I just think I'm really rooting for them to make a playoff spot. I think they can definitely do that.
yeah,
Make it as a wild card, and we'll see where it goes from there. I think they can definitely do it.
yeah. I mean, like, they're not a bad team. I think they just have a few flaws that are hampering them. That's the issue.
Yeah.
So yeah. So now, okay, another big one, the Vancouver Canucks. I first want to acknowledge this to Canuck fans. I have seen a lot of you guys kind of hovering around online. I feel for you guys, and I want you to know this is a safe place. We love Canuck fans here, all right? Even if they've improved by thin margins, keyword is this thin of margins in the past few months, it just feels like Canucks fans have been broken by this year, you know? While trading off Quinn Hughes felt like not an if, but a when, it just still upsets Canuck fans that it could have just easily been avoided if they made better personnel decisions. But I think, realistically, you know, you can make an argument that Rossi, Ogren, and Bouillon could be something for them if you committed to rebuilding. The problem is when the Canucks re-signed Besser and a few of the other guys, that signifies you wanted to go on a run. Like, Jim Rutherford and Patrick Allvin are saying the exact same things that Benning did years. Only difference is this time they're not taking on bad contracts. Like, the truth is, like, the only way out for the Canucks is hoping Aquilini can sell the team at this rate. Like, he would much rather be mediocre and make the healthy profit instead of competing for a championship. Like, Canucks fans, I'm sorry, you guys do not deserve this crap.
Yeah, they're tanking.
Yeah.
They're going for first overall.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because here's the thing, like, I don't know, are they even going to sell at the deadline? Because I imagine, like, you can't move Besser, you can't move Pettersson. Like, I
would say anyone that they can move, they should move if there's value.
Yeah. So, yeah. Now we get to the Vegas Golden Knights. What more is there even to say about the Knights? They're destroying the Pacific and becoming villains that nobody likes. It gets amplified when they bring in Carter Hart on a league minimum deal. So, yeah. Like, here's the thing. Essentially, like, it's the same as it's been in years past. You know, the likes of Jack Eichel, Mark Stone, Ivan Bardashvili, Tomas Hertl, and more contributing. It also helps that Mitch Marner is the newest weapon in this offensive attack. You know, a defense led by Shea Theodore and Noah Hannafin. You know, and even better is that they have some very better goaltending in the likes of Akira Schmidt and the scorn of Philly to help out in this regard. You know, I think, like, realistically, like, expect them to make bold moves at the deadline to further bolster their quest for another cup. Translation, they're going to try and find a netminder because I think that's what they need the most.
Yeah. No, they're really good. That's
all
more I would say.
You can tell we're enthusiastic about it, right?
Yeah.
All right. Now Washington. I mean, it's about what we expect from the Capitals this year. A team squarely good enough to make the wild card, but at the same time, probably not going to go any further than the second round at best. Even for a team that has that's terrible on the power play and constantly drops winnable games, they find ways to surprise you. Obviously, Ovi is an immortal demigod who continues his quest by surpassing 900 goals right now. You know, Tom Wilson in a career year, Riley Leonard, Justin Sordiff, and more rising prospects. Heck, Jacob Chychrun's been playing really good this year, which is surprising. You know, Logan Thompson may have been gotten the snub as Canadian starter, but he is playing up to par this year, especially since Lindgren suffered an injury. So there's that. You know, I think realistically, like, the most with this team right now is they're just trying to make sure that Ovi can end his career on a high note if this is the year, which I don't think it is. Do you think he's retiring this year or
50-50?
Yeah, because I know you did say last time around that you think, like, he's probably going to retire and then go play like a season in Russia or something.
No, you could probably play a couple seasons in Russia.
Yeah.
But I think I think he's said that, so I think it's going to happen at some point.
Yeah. Yeah, so we'll just see until then. Winnipeg. So we are watching a massive implosion up in Winnipeg. That's just how how I'm doing it. Not as bad as some of the other fall-offs in the league, but it's still kind of brutal to see. Like, I think just realistically, ever since November, it's been a slow and painful descent. Like, obviously they extended Kyle Connor to an 8x12, but I think along him, it's him, Vladardi, and Scheifele, which is all they pretty got, which isn't good because it's kind of seeing that Hellebuck's getting up there in age. So I think realistically, they're another case where they may be a Canadian team that's looking to try and rebuild because I don't know what Winnipeg does at this point because they really got nothing. Like they tried bringing John I believe it was Jonathan Toews on his farewell tour, and even he's not playing well. Like it's just
they got the star players. Their thing is that they don't have the depth for it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's holding them back.
Yeah. So now I figured I'm just pulling up the standing sheet right now. So I'd say like for me, I think for the Atlantic, I think how it is right now, I think Lightning will probably still hold that number 1 spot. I could see the Red Wings maybe moving up to 2, Canadians at 3, and I think the Sabres do it. I think they get at 4. I think the Sabres have 4 because I look at it right now. I don't think Boston's got enough to get over it unless they go heavy at the deadline. Senators are probably done, same with the Leafs, and Panthers are going to try. I don't know if they can make the push.
I think the Panthers could make the push. If there's one of the 3 teams that could, I believe in the Panthers the most if they get healthy. But I would say the top 4, and then I think Boston would make the playoffs. I mean, looking at the wild card, I mean, unless a team catches them, like Boston's been playing really good, and I just don't know if I trust anyone to catch them right now.
Yeah. For the Metro, I obviously think the Hurricanes got that division on lock. I think Pittsburgh's probably going to... here's the thing. I think New York is going to move up to that 2. I think Washington probably moves up to 3. And you know what? I'm feeling bold. I think Columbus sneaks in that 4th. They've been playing really well this year. You're at the second half. If they can keep healthy at the post-deadline, I think they got a shot.
Yeah.
So
we'll see.
Yeah. Is that pretty much what you think? Or?
Yeah, pretty much.
All right. West,
I mean, Central, the top 3.
I mean, yeah, I think here's the thing. It's going to come down to who's winning that final, the final weeks of the season are going to be important for the Central. Because I think, obviously, you can make the argument for Colorado, Minnesota, and Dallas all for being in that category. They've been playing really well this year, and depending on how the deadlines go for each one of them, they could all be in conversation for gunning for that spot down the stretch. So that's the big thing. I think for that 4th spot, I think it might, here's the thing. I think it's a toss. I think for me, I think it's going to be Utah. I actually, I think realistically, those are the 4. I don't know, because here's the thing. I look over at the Pacific. I don't know if any of those teams have a good shot to really usurp that spot from them. So
yeah, no, I think Utah will make it. I think with the Pacific, I think Vegas and Oilers are going to be the top 2 teams.
Yeah, Vegas and Oilers. I think the Ducks move up to 3 because they're at 4 right now. I think for that final spot, I'm leaning the Sharks. I think they are the team that's going to probably make a couple moves at the deadline. They got some youth, and I think they're at least going to make the playoffs.
Yeah, I think the Sharks, but I also think the Kings are going to make a run. I think Artemi Panarin's going to help them.
Yeah, I think that's also a good argument because you can make an argument. I think you can make the Ducks, Kings, and Sharks. You all have cases for.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Anyway, that's pretty much it. We're gonna have the Olympics going on, and then second half, it's gonna be incredible. So, Joe, thank you once again for joining me, and we will see you guys next time. Peace out!